Excellent connection. And we should be going live. Yep, there we go. Live on YouTube, live on TV. We're
Great.
up and running. And I
Thank
will
you.
work on inviting more. Great.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to the school committee meeting of February 18th. Before I begin opening the meeting, I do just want to remind our home viewers, if they are considering to put in a public comment tonight, that if you would please go either onto the school website or onto the town website. You will need to connect to the Zoom meeting that is posted for tonight's meeting, and then you will need to sign in with your name and your email address. Once you have been accepted into the meeting, you will come on as a guest. And as soon as I have opened up the meeting, public comment is the first item on the agenda. So I'm trying to give you all time so that if you want to do this, you can get on the link, and you don't have to type anything in once you're in. You just raise your hand, you'll be recognized, and it is a verbal public comment. And just pleased to remind you, public comment is just that, it is a comment. Thank you, not a discussion. So just to keep everybody reminded of that. This is Pauline Proch, Chair of the Nantucket School Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jen Ella?
Present.
Thank you. Tim Lepre?
Present.
Thank you. Steve Sordovic?
Affirmative.
Thank you. Zona Butler? No, no Zona at the moment. Okay, thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. I am aware that there are some presenters tonight who are just receiving the links, so they may not have connected just yet. Superintendent Elizabeth Hallett.
Present.
Thank you. School Committee Clerk Logan O'Connor.
Here.
Thank you. Director of Technology Jennifer Erickson.
Here.
Director of Curriculum for Humanities Jennifer Rayball.
Present.
Thank you. Marita Scarlett. Lauren Murray. Eliza Cosso. Leslie Brannigan. Nicole Ridge. Okay. I will keep an eye out for them, and I will make sure that they are able to hear me and we can hear them prior to their presentation. Good evening. This open meeting of Nantucket School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Nantucket School Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom webinar, and it is an app that is posted on the town website identifying how the public may join the meeting. Zona Butler, I'm just going to do a roll call for you, Zona. Are you present? Zona, can you hear me?
Come on, Zona. We can see you.
Zona Butler? Okay. Let's see that Zona, can you affirm you can hear me? And I can hear you?
Zona just texted and said she can't hear anything.
Well, that's why we do this, isn't it? Perfect. Thank you. I might suggest to Zona that she comes out of the meeting and comes back in. I know that she's just left the screen, but if you could text that to her, Jen, please, because I think sometimes that does the trick with the technology. While we are waiting for that to happen, I am going to open up public comment. And we have Jen Erickson, who is overseeing the public comment. And as I had said before, if you are in as a guest, you do need to raise your hand, and then Jen Erickson will recognize you, and it is a verbal public comment. No one so far. Okay, I'll just give it a few more minutes. I do try to give the notice ahead of time so that people can sign on in plenty of time. Zona has,
Pauline, Madam Chair,
yes,
you'll need to open the meeting first, please. You'll need a motion and open the meeting prior. to
thank
public
you.
comment.
Yep, thank you. I'm still trying to get Zona in. She's having difficulty. She's tried twice to sign in. Oh, you're in now, Zona? You're giving me the affirmative. You can hear me. You can hear me, but I can't hear you. Okay, well, I think, Zona, if you can use the chat for comments that you have. Okay, thank you. May I have an approval to accept the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. And Zona is a positive for that. Tim, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Steve?
Aye.
Thank you. Jen? Ella?
Aye.
Thank you. And Pauline Proch, aye. I'm going to wait until I see the other presenters for there to do a roll call for them. I have noticed that Lauren Murray is on, but I will wait for everybody to arrive. Okay, Jen, any notices for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on, please, to Dr. Hallett's report. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. I've been having trouble with my mute button all day long. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. I will start with a COVID-19 vaccine rollout update. So last week we surveyed the staff to see how many staff in the Nantucket Public Schools were planning to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Of 360 employees, 293 responded. And of those 293 individuals, 254 said, yes, they are planning on receiving the vaccine. 26 said they were unsure, and 13 said that they will not be vaccinated. So as many of you have heard recently, Nantucket will be starting phase 2, step 2, in which people who are 65 or older, or those with 2 or more comorbidities will be able to get vaccinated. And some of our staff and faculty will fall into this category and will be able to be vaccinated earlier. For everyone else, we will need to wait until phase 2, step 3. I have been in communication with Gary Shaw and Michelle Epps at Nantucket Cottage Hospital, along with Roberto Santamaria and Jericho Mele with the town of Nantucket, to discuss the best possible way to plan vaccination rollout for our pre-K to 12 faculty and staff. The nurses and Dr. Lepre have also weighed in as to how we can really best vaccinate over 200 district employees with the least amount of disruption to the school goings on. I will continue to work with NCH and town to determine the best way to do this. Some ideas that might be considered are a mobile vaccination clinic for NPS employees only that could be set up on campus, where staff vaccination times could be hand scheduled and staff could rotate through. A second idea is to block off time for NPS staff at the VFW for vaccinations. And as for timing, it would be best for vaccines to be given on Fridays to keep in mind that possible vaccine reactions may happen. And so it would keep educators out of the, we don't want to keep educators out of the classroom. So we'd like to be able to build in that extra time for recovery if necessary. It has been frustrating to see that Massachusetts is behind in getting public school employees vaccinated, and we are very close. So we will be patient and we will be ready to roll up our sleeves when the time comes. And that is our update there. The other item in my report is the school calendar. We have a fourth draft of the school calendar. Since our last school committee meeting where I presented the 21-22 school calendar, there have been several changes. One change is adding December 23rd to the holiday break in order to give people more time if they are planning to travel. It is a short vacation in December, so that's helpful to have an additional day. Another change is the addition of the Juneteenth holiday on June 19th. It falls on a Sunday this coming year, so it will be observed on Monday, June 20th. And this is a state holiday according to Massachusetts law. So we will be observing that. And we hope that this is the final draft of the calendar. So I am all set and happy to take any comments or questions.
Thank you, Beth. I'll start with Steve, please. Steve. Steve, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. A couple of things. Sorry. First of all, thank you for the changes to the calendar. I'd been hearing from a lot of people about both the 23rd and Juneteenth, which I didn't realize was an actual state holiday. I thought it was a local choice, but what it is it's not quite a federal holiday, except by choice, but it is definitely a state holiday. And I think that it's definitely a good idea to have it in our calendar, despite the fact that it's the last week of school and it could make that scheduling interesting. We might want to have real snow days to lengthen that week a little instead of remote snow days. And on the COVID side, I'm optimistic that they'll be able to get to teachers sooner because they got to some of us before we were technically supposed to be gotten to. I was in 10 days ago to get my first dose, and I ain't 75 years old. So they're moving right along, I believe, and I'm optimistic. And I want to be optimistic because I heard some troubling reports today of a new version of the virus that is much more troublesome in terms not just of passing from one person to another, but its effects. So the sooner we can get this done, and if there's anything we can do to help convince NCH that bringing the vaccine to the staff is the best thing for our kids, please let us know. It's that much more time that teachers would have with their kids.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Tim, are you there? Do you have comments?
I think that the vaccine issue really at the state level is where the problem is. They seem to have screwed up the people signing up for it. You know, they're sending 980 doses to all of Cape Cod. And I think they think we're a foreign country. We should declare war on the United States and maybe we'll get it.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to try Zona for a sound test at the moment. No, no. If you could call in before it's your presentation, that'd be great. And you've sent any of your comments to Jen? Yeah. Okay, Jen, I'd like to go to you next, please.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, and none from Zona
No.
for you. Okay, thank you. I'll touch upon this at the end of the meeting, but Zona and I were on a remote meeting, a legislative breakfast meeting this week, and we actually got set into separate different groups, and Cape and Islands was their own group, and I brought up the vaccines along with other people, and actually Representative Fernandez disagreed and said that in fact our vaccine distribution had actually been quite good, or actually very good. His words were for the islands. He didn't say they were for the Cape, but he did disagree on the fact that Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard were slow on their vaccines. So I think it's worth following up on that, because he has a different opinion clearly than some of us do. So, and yes, as far as the calendar, I just want to thank everybody that, that took the time to reach out to us and offer us their comments and sort of points to the camera, to the calendar, because it is important to hear from everybody, and it does give us an opportunity to reevaluate and look at it. And the changes that you see tonight are really part of the input that we received since our last meeting. So please continue that, and it is appreciated. So thank you. Okay, I'd like to, first of all, I'm going to do a roll call actually just to make sure that everyone for our presentations that were not present because they didn't have the link, I can just do a roll call. When I call your name, please just respond in the affirmative. I can hear you, and it's to ensure that we can hear you as well. Leslie Brannigan.
I'm here.
Welcome. Eliza Cossa.
Also, I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome. Marita Scarlett.
I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome. Lauren Murray.
I am here.
Welcome, Lauren. And Nicole Ridge.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Welcome, Nicole. I think that is everybody that we didn't get to before. So thank you. All right. I'd like to move to our presentations and discussions, please, and ask Jennifer Erickson to take us on the technology, safety issues, and acceptable use of social media, please. So Jen, I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you if you are.
Okay. Yep. I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So why are we making changes to the social media policy now? Part of it is I'm still pretty new, and as I'm learning, I am addressing things as I find them out. Also, it comes down to we need to educate ourselves as to the difference between our professional responsibilities and how to separate being a staff member or a school representative from being a valuable member of the community with opinions. So as I've gotten my certificates and learned more about the guidelines that we need to follow as a school system, these guidelines come from various agencies, both federal and state. So the Federal Communications Commission has come up with the SIPA, which I'll go over each one of these in a little more detail. U.S. Department of Education came up with the FERPA guidelines. Trade Commission came up with COPA in dealing with businesses and social media sites. And of course, DESI has come up with some guidelines also. So SIPA is the Children's Internet Protection Act, and it was enacted by Congress in 2000 to address the concerns about the harmful content on the internet and how to protect children. Now, part of those guidelines are if you participate in the E-rate program, which we do, you need to meet those SIPA guidelines in order to get the funding from USAC. We are responsible for monitoring, and we must have an acceptable use policy. The FERPA guidelines, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, is a federal law started by the U.S. Department of Education, and its intent is to protect student records. And it includes that you must tell parents and eligible students what information you are releasing to anybody. And you must provide time for them to disclose whether or not they would want you to do anything with that information. The COPA guidelines, Children's Online Privacy Protection, was sponsored by the Federal Trade Commission. And this was more to tell the operators of websites that for children under 13, you need to obtain parental consent before you release any information at all, including geolocation, photographs, and contact information. Now, clearly, this can be a problem when you have children who are saying they're 16 or 18 and go on to one of the social media sites. Most of the social media sites will not allow children of that age to go on. The DESE has required that we teach digital citizenship to the staff and the students. And the town of Nantucket actually offered cybersecurity training to all staff, and the school was invited to participate. The administrative staff, 60% of the administrative staff completed that training. And it was really, really interesting. It's actually kind of scary to think about the kind of things that you give up when you agree to, when you just sign that agreement saying, yes, I agree, I want to use the site, so I'm just going to agree, and what you're giving away when you do that. The teachers, who clearly had no time this year, about 20, they were invited to participate knowing how busy they were, and about 20 of the teachers completed it. So the guidelines say that the school must protect the staff and students. And something, one of the things that I go on is something as simple as an accusation by a parent or a member of the community requires that we investigate these facts. So how do we track? How do we present and find out and research what exactly has been done and how to protect the staff and the students from any accusations? Now, we are using a lot of tools within the school system to do that. But these websites, the social media sites, we have no way to monitor those. We have no way to get information on what actually happened in many cases. So we do belong to the Student Data Privacy Consortium. It's also called TEC, which is Education Cooperative. And as a consortium, we subscribe to a company that goes to all of the apps, the software apps, social media sites, and ask them to sign a standardized agreement saying that they are meeting the SIPA and the FERPA guidelines so that they are compliant with what all of these agencies say must be done in order for students to be adequately protected. And many of them refuse to sign. They just refuse to sign it. So one of the benefits to belonging to this consortium is when we have a teacher or even one of the administrators says, oh, I heard about this new app, I want to get it. Well, I can quickly go to one place and find out whether that app or that software or that media site is in compliance with those guidelines. And keep in mind, we must be in compliance with those guidelines. So one of the things that you saw in an earlier slide is we must have an acceptable use policy. And we do. When families, every year, when families fill out the children's information and the family connection as to contact information, any medical information is all online that they can fill out. And it just makes it easier because the parent who knows is entering it directly into our database. So we don't have piles of information waiting for someone to enter. We also, under the Chromebook agreement right now, and we're expanding the whole way the family portal works, but under that agreement, there you say that you are signing the acceptable use policy, and there's really clear guidelines in the acceptable use policy as to what is appropriate use. So using social media, when we think about Facebook and Instagram, these are amazing tools for getting the word out, for the school system to be able to communicate and get information out into the general public or the school population, to parents and families. But the key to it is, who is initiating it? Is it approved? Is it responsible? And who is monitoring it? I can't possibly monitor these things. I don't have tools that will allow me to do that, which is one of the reasons why we block some of these sites within the school system. And then what do we do when we find out about the inappropriate responses? And I have very clear guidelines as to what I follow. If something is reported to me, where I go to see and to research and gather information to give to the superintendent or whoever makes the request. So it's a balancing act between protecting and providing access, between internet safety and having people be able to do whatever they want to do, the digital literacy versus the cyber attacks, the privacy, protecting privacy, and allowing the data analysis that goes on. That's why it's so important when we provide so much information to DESE. Other people might request information, but it's much better for us to point people to a one reliable source, for example, DESE, to, for the data. And then school representation versus freedom of speech. And right here, there's a quote I read off a website called Social Media Guidelines, which has some really good information. And the quote is, whether or not an employee chooses to participate in a blog, wiki, online social media, or any other form of online publishing or discussion, it is his or her own decision. Free speech protects educators who want to participate in social media, but the laws and the courts have ruled that schools can discipline teachers if their speech, including online posting, disrupts school operations. So where I go with this is, if you are using your school email address as a login, that's where you're a representative of the school. Certainly every teacher, every staff member has their freedom of speech, their right to freedom of speech is there, but there should be a pretty clear delineation between using your personal email address, personal identification, as opposed to using your school issued address. And those are some of the things that we're trying to clarify in that social media policy, the changes that we're making. One of the tools that we use when we're monitoring is GoGuardian. It monitors content and use. It looks at website access. Instagram and Facebook are blocked right now. And it also provides a tool for the teachers to see what the students are doing on their screens, which is particularly important. We want to respect some students' privacy, but we need to help the students too, and seeing what they're doing on their screens is very helpful. It also will identify for us children that are at risk if they're searching online for, dangerous sites or something that might endanger them. So where do we go from here? And this is evolving all the time. Digital literacy is something that, as I come up to speed, we're trying to do more and more of it. We want to share information with students and families. We want to engage. COVID has made it really, really tough. A year and a half ago, we had our family nights and they were great. We had so many families come in to pick up Chromebooks, and we educated them on a lot of different things and helped them get the information in the family portal. We couldn't do that this year. So that was really kind of tough. We want to engage the students, families, and the staff and administration in the conversation. And we want to upgrade our tools that we use for monitoring. So, and that's it.
Thank you, Jen. Steve, I'm going to go to you first for comments or questions.
Good, thanks. Nice presentation, Jen. Thank you. Two quick questions. Has the staff been notified recently, or could they be notified soon, to contact you anytime they're considering a new app or website?
They actually don't have a whole lot of choice because we actually publish many of these apps on their devices, especially for the students. They need to request it through tech anyway, and then we push it out to all the students so that we can maintain consistency.
Okay, and if you said there are places that will not sign these agreements from these various agencies, are you able to block them, and do you block them with GoGuardian or whatever because they haven't signed?
Well, in essence, I could, or we could, my staff could. What I'm doing, part of this whole process is to get the information out so that the entire staff and the teachers and the families know why we are starting to block these things. There was so much in place when I got here that we've been able to fine tune some of that. But then COVID hit. And so many of these companies said, we have a thing, we've got a widget, we've got this great tool that will help you teach students remotely. For teachers, some teachers who really didn't use the computer much in their classes. And oh, by the way, it's free. Well, that was really good for the spring. And for the most part, it was whatever they need. We will follow up and try to gather as much information as we can, but we were in crisis mode. So over the summer, we started taking closer looks at it. At the same time, many of these companies say, well, you were using our tool, now we want you to pay for it. So that is, that's where we get a little bit of the limitations. At this point, I am down to very few apps and software packages that are not compliant. And we're working to either push them to sign the agreement through the consortium, or we're actually going to start looking at things to replace them. And that's where we engage with the teachers and the staff and make sure that any changes that we make, we have to work with them and make sure that it's going to work and how to make that transition easy. Honestly, the next presentation Jennifer Rabold will be making will be about Schoology, and Schoology really packages a lot of these things very, very nicely. So it's made it a little easier for tech.
Thank you, Jen.
That sounds good, thanks.
Tim, questions, comments?
This time, no.
Thank you. Zona, I see you've called in as well. Can we check to see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good to check. Janella.
No questions or comments. Thank you,
Okay.
Jen.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you, Jen, for a very concise presentation. Next, I'd like to invite Jennifer Rabold to do the Schoology, easy for you to say, update.
Schoology. I have two teachers with me from our Schoology ILT who are going to help me present. Blythe Purden from the elementary school and Rachel Sullivan from Cyrus Pierce Middle School. So they're going to be jumping in on some of the slides to explain them in a little bit more depth. Jen, you want to share our presentation? Do you need me to share it with you again? No. Okay.
Nope, I'm sorry. I thought I was. Hold on one second.
Here we go. So we did a little presentation to Schoology at the beginning of the year just to explain what it was because it was new for us. So this is our mid-year progress report. We're just going to kind of let you know where we are in the whole process of rolling this out. Next slide. So our goals for the presentation today is just to update you on the progress of the rollout, to clarify the process, including our training and expectations, to identify what has worked well and what has kind of clunked with the Schoology rollout, and to identify our next steps. Just as a reminder, Schoology is our learning management system. It's different from Aspen, which is our student information system. Schoology is essentially, it's a social networking service and virtual learning environment for K-12 school and higher education institutions as well that allow users to create, manage, and share academic content. And what a learning management system is, it's a system that is used primarily for managing course resources and learning in and out of the classroom. It includes information on courses, enrollments, curriculum, attendance, grade books and grades, etc. We'll show you some of these, what they look like. And again, why did we do this year in the middle of a crazy pandemic? Well, there are a few reasons. It provides a common platform for families, students, schools, and educators across the district, a central location for parents to go to. This was challenging last spring when we went remote suddenly because different schools were using different platforms and parents had a hard time finding their students' work. It streamlines daily management processes. Once we get all our teachers in all the schools on board with Schoology, and once students can go to Schoology for kind of one-stop shopping, it really streamlines the processes. It also allows us to track time on learning because it has analytics that can help us document required time on remote learning. It automates communication and assessment processes. It even has some self-grading assessments that we can use. And it, as Jen mentioned, it connects to educational apps as they can be linked and it opens directly inside the platform. So it prevents students from going outside of Schoology into multiple other websites. It requires less bandwidth. They don't have to enter their password multiple times. And also, quite frankly, one of the primary reasons that we did it when we did is that DESE required a common learning management system for each district this year, something that we used from K-12. And so every district in the state had to choose one if they were not already using one. So I'm going to turn it over to Blythe now to talk a little bit about what Schoology can do for us.
Oh, all right. Well, hi, everybody. Nice to see everyone tonight. So Schoology, as Jen was saying, is basically like a big hub. So for teachers, it's a place, I like to, how I've tried to describe it to the NES staff is it's basically a place to host your classroom website. Everything a parent might need to know is going to be on there, links to different apps. In NES, we use Seesaw, which is a kid-friendly way to get their work back to us. It also is a place where teachers can post their playlists, which if you're unfamiliar with that term, it's basically a list of our learning objectives and activities for the day when we're not teaching synchronously. So it's asynchronous tasks that children and students can do at their own pace and with choice. There's also, as it goes through the grades, there's going to be you can have a student grade book on there. And for the older grades, you might have a discussion board. So if any of you have taken a college course in the last 10 years, Blackboard, that type of thing. And again, as we continue to build this through for the teachers, we're going to hopefully have a resource bank of templates and content that then all of us at NPS can be able to utilize, which would all still be housed in Schoology.
And this picture right here, actually, if we could go back for just a second, Jen, all the pictures that you'll see on the slides are from teachers in our district. This is one from a reading specialist at NES, and each of those little books that are on that webpage are links. And so if students want to read a book, they click on that link, it opens it, it reads it to them. So these are, it's called a Bitmoji classroom, and a lot of, especially our elementary and intermediate school teachers have these with all kinds of resources right there on that page. It's really great.
Yeah, and so for kids, I think, and students, it's a place where all their classes are. So you know, if they see the reading specialist, they'd have her page. If they had their home room would be there. Art, music, PE, any other specialty teachers that they see. It's also a place where they can find their assignments in case they didn't hear it, or you know, they're remote that day. They can access their grades. And again, like we were saying, it's a place to hopefully, you know, we're looking towards the future of doing a lot more collaborative work within Schoology, which is cool because you can do a lot of, there's different kinds of media platforms you can use within it. And for parents, so at NES, I know we're going to touch about this in the next couple of slides, but we just had our parent rollout evening last week. And for parents, again, this is a place where if you have multiple children in the district, you're going to be able to have one login and see all of their courses and all of their teachers. And then there's also going to be places where you can subscribe to groups. So it might be, you know, maybe the Friends has a group page, or your child's sports team. And then we are looking to do, because that our Andrea Marr and I hosted our NES Schoology parent night, and it was really well attended. So we're hoping to do more types of parent university or learning as we all learn this into the spring and into the fall.
So we've done a lot of training of educators and provided support. We felt that we had to do that. Most districts, when they adopt a new learning management system, it's a 2-year rollout, and we didn't have that kind of time. So we've tried to just build in a lot of support. All teachers were given an opportunity to take a 3-hour Getting Started on Schoology. It was a self-paced course that they could take on Schoology so they could practice as they learned. We did some introduction to blended learning, some guided learning at each school in the beginning of September. We had 8 optional extra support for Schoology official sessions for individuals or small groups or departments last fall. We had 1 advanced Schoology for some of our early adopters who really wanted to know some of the advanced features. We have continued support via phone, email, Google Meet. I just met with a teacher this afternoon to try to troubleshoot some issues that she was having via a Google Meet. And we hired teachers to be on Schoology instructional leadership teams at each school. We actually have 9 teachers. We have 3 at the middle school. And they have continued to provide support to teachers. They are some of our early adopters, our very tech savvy teachers who are working with their colleagues to help them in whatever way they need it. They've often done tiered professional development for teachers, you know, a Schoology for the beginners and Schoology for those who are really advanced and want to learn the bells and whistles. They've had drop-in support times for teachers. They've provided parent support, and they've been working on marketing, creating some how-to videos for different tools or tasks that teachers and parents can do with Schoology. And they will continue to provide training over the summer. And now Rachel's going to tell us a little bit about the rollout.
All right. So we got going in October. The goal was for October 22nd that we would be posting at least our weekly playlists. And as Blythe mentioned, and there's some nice examples on this page here of what a playlist might look like, although, you know, each teacher is going to set it up their own way, just like they would set up their classroom their own way. But a playlist is simply, you know, your list of what you're doing, how much time it might take. There might be some links to some resources you're using within a playlist, and the activities that you're going to be doing in class that day. So, you know, we were all just sort of learning about playlists to start the school year initially. And so just sort of starting with the very basics of getting our playlists up into Schoology was a good place to start, because we had just learned how to create our playlists. We were getting used to that. And now it was just a matter of getting them posted into our Schoology classrooms. And just sort of getting our Schoology classroom start to set up in the format and the system that made the most sense for our age group and our learners. So that was the beginning for phase 1. Go on to phase 2. And phase 2 was really about starting to get connected with the parents, making sure that they could get into Schoology, that they had their login information. And I know that Jennifer and Mandy did a couple of blasts of emails of, here's your login information for Schoology. And then we wanted to also provide parents with some nights in which they could, okay, here's your login information. Now, how do you log in, and what do you do once you've logged in? I believe each school has hosted a couple of nights. I think one was canceled during that day when the power went out and we had all those issues, but we've all hosted nights where we've been able to connect with parents. We've also sent out some helpful videos about how to log in, how to toggle between multiple children in different, if you have children in different schools. And so that was a big part of the connection piece for Rollout phase 2, is connecting with the parents. And we've also started to now not only host like the big parent nights, but now some more smaller drop-in session nights as well, for more sort of individualized questions as they come up. Grading has also been part of phase 2, it really more sort of in the higher upgrades, where we're grading with number grades and less standard-based grading. At CPS, we are, I think at this point, all now grading within Schoology, but then, at the end of the term, transferring grades into Aspen to, publish those reports. And so that is what happened during phase 2, connecting with parents and starting to work more within it as well. Fully implementing, we're looking for, start of the next school year. See, there's important information. Like Jennifer mentioned, a lot of teachers have put in Bitmoji classrooms that are sort of a nice way for the kids to, enter your Schoology class, and starting to organize your activities, your learning activities within your classroom, and using some of the, like I said, the great resources like linking in programs like Edpuzzle or Newsella, or I'm trying to think of some other one, Brain Pop, are things that link in nicely with Schoology, but also, linking assessments. You can build assessments right in there. You can have discussions with discussion questions right in there, and starting to use some of that, those other features, including, grading. And you can also, like I know on my Bitmoji page, like it says, like link to meeting times and meets as well. Like you can put in a link right into your Google Meet within your Schoology classroom as well. So just really being able to use it to its fullest extent. And I believe there's one more slide about phase 3 as well. So another important part about phase 3 is that Google Classroom, which I know was, what most people were relying on prior to Schoology, will be sunsetting as of August 1st. So what that means is that you won't be able to create, new classes in there and manage grades and create assignments within a Google Classroom. But the good news is that all the features that you could use in a Google Classroom, you can do in Schoology, and you will still be able to do Google Docs and Google Slides and Google Jamboards and Google, spreadsheets. All those Google Suite features will still be available, and those are embeddable within Schoology. So it's just making your Schoology your classroom, but still taking all the features that you would have used in a Google Classroom along with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. So what's gone well with Schoology this year? I think one of the best parts of Schoology has been the instructional leadership teams. They have great ideas. They have a lot of energy. They're always coming up with creative suggestions, and they're really motivated to get their colleagues on. And they've been a great way for us to, as the administration, to communicate with teachers, and for teachers to communicate with administration. If there's anybody who has questions or frustrations or some kind of problem, ILT members will bring them to our meeting and we'll troubleshoot them there and try to figure out some solutions. The parent information sessions went really well. We had sessions for all 4 schools, sessions in Spanish. NES did some great marketing and had over 70 parents or caregivers show up at a Google Meet to learn about Schoology. And it's been a gradual teacher acceptance for a new program in an already stressful year. We've actually got way more teachers who have really dived into this than anybody expected. It's been the toughest, I think, at the high school because so many high school teachers were already using Google Classroom and they were really used to that. But about 25% of those teachers now are using Schoology exclusively. The rest of them are planning to transfer their resources onto Schoology by next year. At CPS, 100% of the teachers and students are on board. They have landing pages, assignments, learning activities, assessments, links to resources, application, synchronous meeting times, and CPS does all their grading on Schoology now. At NIS and NES, 100% of the teachers are linking their daily or weekly playlists in Schoology. They're not using all of the Schoology functions consistently across grades and teachers, but they're moving in that direction. So it hasn't been a perfect rollout. Clearly, there's been some clunky parts to this. The initial rollout was tough. We had such a compressed time for the rollout timeframe. We've had challenges with another new initiative in a challenging year, and we didn't have a lot of choice with the time frame or the year. What we also found is that we had kind of poor onboarding and support from Schoology as a company. When the pandemic happened, a lot of schools across the country, not just in Massachusetts, were seeking a learning management system, and I think Schoology got a lot larger, a lot more quickly, and couldn't quite keep up with the support. So we did a lot of self-teaching and learning how this worked. The other thing that's been a little clunky is that some of the integration with third-party apps has been a little clunky. There is no integration with Aspen for grading. So if teachers are grading in Schoology at the end of the term, they have to then take that final grade and manually put it into Aspen. Eventually, there's going to be a link between Aspen and Schoology so that won't have to be a manual process. Integration with some commonly used apps are not available. You can still put a link to the app in Schoology, but it takes students to an outside page. And we like to keep all the students in the Schoology page. And even the apps that they have partnerships with that we can integrate, they haven't been seamless. There's been a lot of troubleshooting that we've had to do to make them play nicely together. It's not as student friendly for our youngest students is what we've found because there's a lot of text and our youngest students are not necessarily reading. So one of our solutions is that we've been linking Seesaw, which is an app that plays nicely with Schoology, right into Schoology so that students can click right there, but all the other resources of Schoology are available for students and parents. And like I said, we've had kind of inconsistent implementation across the district, which we expected. So next steps, we will continue to support faculty with implementation this year. We will support them over the summer with the transition to Schoology if some of them are waiting till the summer to do that. Again, we will be sunsetting Google Classroom on August 1st. We will be continuing professional development and having some visits with consultants in August in the beginning of the year to help teachers who need some extra support. And the expectations for next year across the district is full implementation. So landing pages, assignments, learning activities, assessments, links to resources and application, and synchronous meeting times if we're still doing that. And then at CPS and NHS, we're hoping to get all the grading in there in Schoology. And we will continue to support families with drop-in tech support and probably a few parent universities to continue rolling this out for teachers, for parents and caregivers. Any questions? A lot of information, I know.
So thank you so much, Jennifer. Greatly appreciate your presentation. Steve, do you have questions or comments?
Well, both. Great presentation. I feel like I'm learning about Schoology, which is good. What, and I know you're going to have to guess on this, so it's pure speculation. What percentage of our parents are actually making use of Schoology at the moment?
That is something I could probably research because the analytics in Schoology are pretty good. Every parent has an account and have been sent their login information. I'm not sure how often. I'd have to do the research and find the numbers to find out how many parents are actually using it. All parents.
Yeah, it's a curiosity question because I know getting parents to participate has always been, as you call them, clunkers in the system, trying to get them actively involved, even when it was all the Google stuff and they could get in there. So whatever can be done to get the parents involved would be great. For your information, and you'll hear it in a few minutes, I have added to the district goals more education and assistance to parents to try to get them involved in this. So thank you. Good information.
Thank you. Tim?
When did you say it would be fully implemented?
The goal is by the start of school next year for all 4 schools.
Okay, thank you.
Zona?
So I thought I heard on the charts. Is that feedback for you guys? Because it's feedback for me.
Yeah, yes, there is.
Well, I am so challenged today. Isn't it crazy?
That's okay. Maybe just turn your mic off on your computer if you're coming in.
I did.
You did.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to go slowly.
Thank you.
I saw the 100%. I thought it was participation. Was that right?
At the middle school, 100% of our teachers and students are using the full suite in Schoology. At the elementary and intermediate school, 100% of our teachers have at least a playlist linked on Schoology. It may then take them out of Schoology, but certainly parents and caregivers can find that link there and find out what their students have to do. At the high school, 25% of our teachers are exclusively on using Schoology. The rest of them should be posting, I wouldn't say 100%, but many more are at least posting a link to their playlist. And those playlists have links to different resources that students need for their classes. I think you're muted.
You're muted, Zona. Zona, we can't hear you. You're muted. No, you're still muted.
Oh, maybe it's about time we all took courses in sign.
You can, Zona, text me your question or comment.
All right, Jen, I'm gonna go to you next, and then I'm gonna ask Zona if she can call in because we did hear you for a while.
All right, thank you. To speak to Steve's comment about the parents and how challenging it is to get them on, I have to say, in our defense, as a parent who at one point had 3 kids in 3 different schools that were on 3 different, applications, it is challenging. So I'm happy to see that we have a district-wide one initiative that we're trying to teach all of our students, staff, and family members. It makes it a lot easier for family members to stay in touch and to follow their students when you have that one, I think, application to find everything. I would be interested to see how many parents have actually signed on, because I will tell you, honestly, in light of tonight's meeting, I signed on for the very first time. So it would be nice to hear how many of our families have signed on and the reasons why we, parents haven't, or guardians, and what we can do to help with that. Because I feel like even with Aspen and checking report cards, it's something that we need to stay on top of so our families can, be participants in their kids' day-to-day schoolwork. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Go. Okay, finish up, Zona. Yes, well done.
So the question was, there was a lot of apprehension, especially in the elementary school with the teachers there. Have you guys been able to work through that? Is it progressing in a better light?
I think our solution with the elementary school is Seesaw. It's much more friendly for kids who are non-readers, and for students who aren't typing all their homework, they're drawing it, they're writing it, and then they can take a picture and submit. It's a little bit easier on Seesaw, but we can. It's one of those apps that integrates very well with Schoology. So the link to Seesaw will be right in Schoology, and again, the parents or caregivers will be able to see their student and any other children that they have right there in the same place. So I think that's our solution.
Oh, great. What about the integration with some of the other apps like Aspen? Is that being worked on by Schoology?
So some of the links, there are some links between Aspen and Schoology. For example, that's how we got all the students and the classes and the teachers onto Schoology, is that it was an automatic syncing. There are some issues with syncing. Jen and Joanne in tech and I have been working on some of those. And we're hoping to do things a little bit differently in how we sync next year, because right now we're having to add new students manually because syncing is not working as we wish. And the link between Schoology and Aspen is an initiative that Schoology is currently working on. So they're hoping to have that done by next year, which would be great because that would save a lot of manual work for a teacher.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Zona. I'd like to go to Amanda for comments, questions.
I've only had to use Schoology for 1 class this year, but so far I can tell that it's gonna be. I think it's gonna work really well. It's a great way to organize all of our classes and everything. So
that's great. Thank you. Good to have the thumbs up.
I should also mention that there is a new page on the web page specifically for Schoology. If you go into the tabs at the top of the page for the departments, if you click on curriculum, there is a sub page for Schoology, and there are a bunch of how-to videos and other information for parents and caregivers in both English and Spanish. So those are available, and we're continuing to add to those resources.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank Blythe and Rachel and yourself, Jennifer, for a great presentation. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to move on to school committee goals update, and I've asked Steve Sudovic if he would lead this.
Well, lead or explain, as it turns out.
All right.
I will apologize, but not take the blame for the tardiness that these documents reached school committee members, the superintendent and Logan. It was not made clear to me until mid-afternoon today exactly what it was we were supposed to be presenting tonight. The good news is that I spent a couple of hours updating the status column for our recent meetings. And so when we get to looking at status again, we should be ready for that. As I mentioned and included in the original document, I thought there were 3 areas that we needed to add to our goals. References to Schoology, especially for parents, school safety, given the COVID crisis, and progress with, I should have said, remote and hybrid curricula. When Pauline asked me at, was it 4:45, Pauline, to see if I could find some places to add those, I started looking, and the latest document I've sent you has 4 suggestions for locations where we could put simple indicators, not goals or sub-goals, but indicators in that cover all of these areas. I don't expect us to go through and discuss them all tonight, because I don't know that we can come up with a final document. But if you could have a look at those, I mean, I've put in, for example, in goal, oh God, is it goal 2, an indicator that we would advise and assist parents in the use of Schoology to support students' academic progress, which it sounds as if is already being done, which is great. I also put in under safety, because that's in that same goal, that the school committee will ensure preparation, adoption, and implementation of COVID safety protocols and procedures. In goal 4, I added, because this is continuously improving curriculum is the objective there. The district prepares, implements, and adopts remote and hybrid learning curricula and schedules. These are all things that have been done, but it struck me that since we've been doing them since March, they ought to be in this year's set of goals. And then also in goal 4, under effective instruction, that the school committee, I'm looking at the language, will direct administration to ensure that appropriate technology, hardware, and software, including, for example, Schoology, are obtained and distributed as necessary to fully implement remote and related learning. Please have a look at those at your earliest convenience. If you think the language should be changed, or if you can find a different location within the goals to place them. I had an hour to try to do that. And I'm hoping that this meets most of our needs. End of comment. And this, I can make this document more available. As I said, I've sent it to all the school committee members with those suggested modifications bolded in red, as well as to Superintendent Hallett and Logan O'Connor. If anybody else wants to have a look, please ask. It's easy for me to email them, and we need to find a date to finally approve these. The goals, and I did go and have a look. Logan suggested that we were a year out of date, and she was absolutely right. The goals on the NPS web pages for the school committee are last year's goals. So the sooner we can get this year's goals up there, the better off we're going to be. Thanks for listening. Comments or thoughts?
Thank you, Steve. Zona, comments?
I just want to say I didn't get that copy, that version with the red and bold in it. So I would love it if you would forward that to me.
I'll double check. I sent two.
Oh,
The first version did not have that. And then later, admittedly, I sent the second version. I'll gladly send it to you again.
Thank you, Steve. Tim? Tim Lepre?
I did not get this till just now. And so there's not much I can say, Steve.
Listen, that's why I apologize for the tardiness, but I'm not going to take the blame. And we can't get it finalized tonight anyway. So perhaps with a bit of luck, this can be added to our next agenda. And if anybody has comments or suggestions in the meantime, send them to Pauline and myself. We've been working on these and we'll be glad to consider them.
Great, thanks. And Jen, I presume no questions or comments at this time?
No, not this time, but I did have a quick moment. I do love the additions. So I completely support the additions, Steve, and appreciate that. I just would love a little more time to thoroughly look at it as a whole and see if I think that there's a better place. I'm sure there isn't.
Listen, either a better place or better wording, or, you know, we may still have left something out.
Yeah.
The things that jumped out at me were COVID, safety, etc.
Yeah.
And the hybrid and remote learning. There may be other things that belong in here that I haven't thought of.
I can think of a couple myself.
So if it's okay, we'll digest what Steve sent out. He'll resend out to those of you that didn't receive it. And then we will put it on next meeting's agenda for discussion. And then we can vote on it on the following meeting, if that sounds good to everybody.
That's fine.
And so, okay.
Well, and I'll be happy to make any changes in the meantime so that perhaps we can have a final document the next time. If people reach out, Pauline, to you and I, in the meantime, we can definitely do that.
Okay. Yep, it'd be nice to get them updated and get them up on the website. So if that works also, I'll be in touch with Logan and Beth to let you know the status if we can have it out there and then have it for vote on the 2nd. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to our Black History Month presentation. And it's great to invite several folks to present, and I'm not sure what order you're going to present, but I'd like to introduce Leslie Brannigan, Eliza Cosso, Marita Scarlett, Lauren Murray, and Nicole Ridge, please.
Hi, Pauline. Thank you so much. I'm gonna start us off, and then we're gonna kind of go school by school. I'll bookend us a little bit. So I do have a presentation, so I'm gonna share my screen. And hopefully that will all go well. I am a Google Meet fan, not a Zoom fan. So bear with me if I'm stumbling a little bit with Zoom. Hopefully you guys can all see that. And I'm going to set it on present and we'll get started at the beginning, hopefully. So we just wanted to share with you some of the work that's going on for Black History Month at all 4 schools. This slide here is actually lifted from a presentation, lifted and modified from a presentation we did at the African Meeting House last year at CPS. It was a partnership with myself and Nasia Smith. She did and Nick Hayden, they did a play and a drum circle. And we also had a tribute to Kobe Bryant as he had just passed away right before we did that presentation last year. So I'm going to hand it over to Lauren Murray to talk a little bit about what's going on at NES in Black History Month.
Thank you. So there's so many great things happening at NES, and I don't have enough time to share all of them. But the main focus has been the teaching of notable people, places, and events, both past and present, through read-alouds and guided discussions, both at the whole group level and in socially distanced turn-in talks. Some read alouds have been happening virtually through Bitmoji classrooms and Google Slides, in addition to in person. And all of this work has been integrated into ELA through reading and writing of biographies, poetry, and fiction books. It's been integrated into art lessons with Sue Grant's teachings of memory quilts and preschool's family trees. Our school library has featured numerous fiction and nonfiction books by Black authors and illustrators that feature diverse characters and historical events. So kudos to Mary McGinnis. These themes have also been integrated into Jean Clark and Lisa Hood's SEL lessons, which happen at the K-2 level. And in addition to the lessons teachers and support staff have been doing, we've had numerous discussions at team levels about the importance of keeping this work a year-long priority rather than just during the month of February, and really being mindful to include all perspectives of history from the start of a student's schooling at our early level.
Thank you, Lauren. Eliza?
So at the intermediate school, we have also had a big focus on books. We're lucky at the elementary and intermediate schools to have morning meeting times during which we can highlight people. This has included a slides presentation that had spotlights for a number of different people, as well as a calendar for days of the school that highlighted people across different time periods and across different positions. So including a balance of genders and also showing that people have made a difference, yes, in the civil rights movement, but also in science and art and history, and making sure that we include the importance of civil rights changes, but also dive into the fact that Black history is broader than just that time period. And we also had a wonderful virtual library, which was great for all of our students who were at home or in school. And a number of teachers also had highlighting days that kind of went over why Black History Month is important. And a number of the 5th grade activist projects included notable Black activists as well. And that was a project that they recently wrapped up with some great art and research altogether.
Thank you so much, Eliza. I'm going to speak briefly about what's going on at Cyrus Pierce. I think you're noticing a theme that we're really focusing across all schools on Black history being more than just the struggle and not starting with slavery and ending with the civil rights movement. So we chose to highlight this Black Lives Inspire mural that was started by our school counselor, Jackie Normand. The project features student and staff contributions of lesser known Black figures, particularly in the arts and sciences. We wanted to ensure that we were telling stories beyond slavery, the civil rights movement, and the current Black Lives Matter movement. In addition to this highly visible project, teachers are also incorporating Black history into playlists. Some teachers have been able to align their standards to highlight Black history. For example, in 8th grade civics, Mr. Farrell is currently using the play Hamilton to align to his curriculum. Nick Hayden in the general music program, I was lucky enough to be able to stop in to see some of his lessons highlighting a variety of African-American musicians, which were almost all brand new to our students. So that was pretty amazing. And to watch the kids just be so enthralled with these musicians that they had never heard of before. And Leslie.
Great, thank you, Marita. So similar to what Marita had just mentioned, at the high school, we are looking to celebrate some of the marginalized narratives that exist in sports, history, politics, music, arts, and the like. We have this fabulous bulletin board, which our administration kind of spearheaded. In addition to that, we've got teachers who are supporting the celebration of Black History Month by posting posters, pictures, narratives, anything that really kind of celebrates and calls into focus Black history in our high school. There's also been a call to the Bill of Rights Institute essay contest, which addresses the issue of what is, or poses the question, I should say, what is the relationship between equality and justice? That is the current question through the Bill of Rights Institute that students have been kind of encouraged to consider. In addition to that, we have quite a few electives that have taken on this initiative, including a new civics course that's being offered this year that's bringing attention to the 1619 project. I can speak more to that at another time if people are interested. An inclusion of marginalized narratives, not necessarily the big names in civil rights activism, but people who might not be as well known. And additional projects that highlight the legacy of Black Americans, including the importance of the Harlem Renaissance, kind of as a central narrative to that. So teachers are certainly addressing the issues. It's not quite as streamlined as it might be in the elementary or intermediate schools, just because students have individual courses and not necessarily a single teacher that's kind of navigating the courses with them. But certainly an issue that the high school is addressing and incorporating.
Thank you, Leslie. And finally, just wanted to share out a little bit of information at a district level. All of us that are here today are part of an anti-racism instructional leadership team. We've been putting out monthly newsletters to our staff. We also have added, we will be sending a similar newsletter out that will be accessible to parents. Thank you to Eve Marie for suggesting that. And so we also have a Padlet with resources that's embedded into that monthly newsletter. And then I just really want to celebrate the variety of resource sharing and collaborative discussions within buildings and among teams. The resource sharing that has occurred has just been really heartwarming to see. It's one of the things that makes me so proud to work at the Nantucket Public Schools is how even across buildings we can come together to support each other. And that is that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marita. I'm going to go to the committee for questions and comments. Steve.
First again, comments, are all. When I saw Mr. Horton's weekly message, and he showed us a few of the things going on at CPS, this presentation is exactly what I was hoping to see. A taste of what's going on in all the buildings. It's terrific. I thank you all for letting us see this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Tim?
When I see a celebration of Chuck Berry, Mandela, it's a very eclectic group, and I think it's shows the breadth of the contributions. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Zona?
I think it's wonderful that all the schools are getting involved and putting it out there. When I do my presentation, I have more to add to that. And I hope it encourages all of you to continue to do what you're doing and some more.
Great. Thanks, Zona. That's going to be following right after this. Thank you. Jen.
Questions, but I want to thank you. And I love the collaboration, like the other committee members said, amongst all the schools. It's incredible. I love to hear that this is, built in year long and not just into a month, because I think that's really important. And I love how you're showcasing this in the hallways for our students to see. And also it's a part of the curriculum. So they're not only seeing it visually, but they're learning about it and speaking about it. And I think it's just incredible, and it's what we need. And I really appreciate all the time and energy you're putting towards this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. You said a lot of what I was going to say, because I think it's great to see more availability of curricula than we've had in the past. And that just is wonderful, and obviously a richness of resources that you can share district-wide. And I love that you're able to come together on this and really do it year long. So thank you. And I apologize for the short amount of notice you had. That's all on me. So I'm sorry about that. But I am just blown away by the presentation you put together, knowing that you had less than a week. So thank you so much to all of you. And
may I just add one brief specific thanks to whoever got Moby up on the screen. I've been wondering what's up with Brain Pop, and I saw Moby up in the corner, and it brought back warm memories. Thank you.
Whenever I hear that beep, I think of you, Mr. Sordovic.
so anyway, just wrapping up for you all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for continuing this very important area of learning for all of our students, and to keep it year long. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. Zona is up next. Zona and I, as I mentioned before, were on a collaborative breakfast together, and Zona did a presentation, and I was asked if she would please share tonight. So Zona, you're on.
Well, I hope you don't mind that it's not exactly the same. First of all, this year is just flying by. We are halfway through the second month of 2021. And if you could start with that Heritage Month guide, that would be great. I was on the breakfast, Pauline, when I thought, oh my God, it's Black History Month. I don't know why I didn't think to, put forth, when I was part of the organizing, put forth something regarding Black history. So while we were on the breakfast call, I put all that together in that moment. So I want to start off by saying, Black History Month, there are so many heritages to celebrate besides Black history. And don't get me wrong, I am not trying to belittle it in any way, but I long for the day when it's American history. We're all part of American history. I long for the day that they rewrite the history books to include all of it. I looked up, I was curious, are there other heritage months that are celebrated? And there are. You don't hear much about them and that sort of thing. And that's unfortunate, but there are. I would love for us to take that on. When I said do more, Marita, this is what I'm talking about. Everybody's history is important. Here's a quote from Obama. He said, it's important for us to also understand the phrase Black Lives Matter simply refers to the notion that there's a specific vulnerability for African Americans that needs to be addressed. It is not meant to suggest that other lives don't matter. It is to suggest that other folks aren't experiencing this particular vulnerability. President Barack Obama. And that's very true. I know some people, this time last year, we were right in the thick of Black Lives Matter being at the forefront of some of the issues that were happening in the world besides COVID. And I think some races of people, some classes of people felt slighted, and it's not about that at all. We all know that all lives matter, but that was an issue that needed to be addressed. So I want to start by giving just a little bit of background on Black History Month. This is something I looked up, many, many years ago, and I find it fascinating that, and a lot of people may not know this, that the story of Black history begins in 1915, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. That September, the Harvard-trained historian, Carter G. Woodson, And the prominent minister, Jesse Moreland, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black American and other people of American descent. Known today as the Association for the Study of African American History Life, the group sponsored a National Negro History Week in 1926, choosing the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And we all know Frederick Douglass had ties to Nantucket. The event inspired schools and communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, establish history clubs, and host performances. President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, calling upon the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. I just think that's just wonderful to find the background. And I'm not going to take up much time. Now for the quote. The other thing that's fascinating for me during Black History Month and week and whatever is that the empowering quotes that are out there. So I've shared some of those with you on the screen. And from Shirley Chisholm, if you recall, I believe she was a court justice, a Supreme Court judge. She says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. How awesome is that? Anyone who claims to be a leader must speak like a leader. That means speaking with integrity and truth. Vice President Kamala Harris. The next one is, if there is no struggle, there is no progress, by Frederick Douglass. Hate is too great a burden to bear. It injures the hater more than it injures the hated, by Coretta Scott King. The time is always right to do what is right. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Where there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong, by Ella Fitzgerald. And he who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life, Muhammad Ali. And from President Barack Obama, again, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And Booker T. Washington, character is power. Rosa Parks, I had no idea that history was being made. I was just tired of giving up. Your story is what you have, what you will always have. It is something to own. Michelle Obama. And doing the best at this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. Oprah Winfrey. And finally, my last quote for the evening, one of my favorites, is laundry is the only thing that should ever be separated by color. Author unknown. I think I'm going to put my name on that one. So I think we can do better. Every day we can do better. It's tough. It's not going to be easy, but anything easy is not worth fighting for. I think we have a great district here. We have some wonderful teachers that care about our students, our administration, who have a goal in mind that they're trying to seek and find. I think supporting all of us and what we bring to the table, no matter how different, no matter the color, no matter how short or tall, we all have a story to tell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zona. Thank you. I'm going to go to Amanda first, please, just for comments or questions on the last two presentations.
Yeah, so this is kind of going back to the first presentation, but I just think it's really great that we have all these resources, especially for the younger grades. Just, I remember when I was younger, we definitely didn't talk about this stuff enough, so it's really great.
Thank you, Amanda. Steve?
Yeah, I just want to add one little thing. I doing a little bit of research on Juneteenth. I was gobsmacked to learn that Texas, of all places, was the first state to make Juneteenth an official state holiday, which I think is amazing. And I think it's up to 47 or 48 states now that it's an official state holiday. So that was good to see too.
Yep, it's getting up there, which is good. Tim, any final comments, questions?
I think Zona did a tremendous job. She rounded it out very, very nicely.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Jen?
No, just that she did an incredible job. Thank you, Zona.
Yes, thank you, Zona. I was very proud, and I am proud to be your co-committee member, but it was lovely to hear you tonight, and it was great to hear you the other morning. So thank you so much. You bring a lot to our committee. Okay, moving on. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to move on to the committee discussions and votes to be taken, please. I'd like to have a motion to accept and approve the donation from Joseph L. Vieira Fund to Whaler Football Program for $9,245.15.
So moved and wow.
Moved and wow, yes. Moved by Steve, second by Tim. Jen, can I have your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you. Zona?
Aye.
Thank you. Tim?
Aye.
Thanks, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you. And Pauline, aye. Thank you. Vote approval, please, for the donation from Mass Hire Cape and Islands Workforce Board to Nantucket High School, School to Career for $2,500.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Jen, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Zona?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And Pauline, aye. Thank you. Vote approval, please, from the Cape Cod 5 to Samantha Turcott and grade 1 for educational mini grant for sight word goat packs for $500.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Second by Tim. Jen, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Zona.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline. Aye. I have vote approval, please, for the minutes of February 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Zona, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Tim. Steve?
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Aye.
Thank you, and Pauline, aye.
And Jen? Aye.
Sorry, I thought I heard your voice earlier. Sorry. Transfers and invoices, may I have move approval?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you, Zona. Second. Jen, may I have your vote? Thank you. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you, Zona.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you. And Pauline, aye. All right. Just moving on to any subcommittee work, group negotiations, scholarships. Anybody been meeting, and any updates? If you could just raise your hand and I can see you. Zona.
I don't really have an update except for we had the legislative breakfast this past Friday, which was a hit. I think we had like 80 plus participants. So it was a pretty big Zoom party, and that we broke out into rooms. It was kind of fascinating how they were able to do that and then bring us all back together. I had never experienced that part of Zoom before. So that was great. I wanted to ask the update on the bus situation. In the collaborative, we were told that there were quite a few people that went on COVID leave. I think one came back, not necessarily Nantucket people, but in the overall Cape collaborative. So I'm just curious as to what our situation is.
Okay. Thank you. Beth?
Would you like me to speak to that?
Sure, yes, please.
So we had a meeting with Paul Hilton, Cape Cod Collaborative, and Linda Barrett, our wonderful bus dispatcher here on the island. Just recently, there has been some, there have actually been new guidelines released by the Department of Education that have lifted the restrictions for the number of children. They've done numerous studies in the air movement, airflow, and COVID transmission on buses. And what they have found is that there is little to none. So Massachusetts, after having seen these studies and having reviewed that, they lifted their restrictions for elementary and also limited their restrictions or lifted some restrictions for middle and high school as well to 2 passengers per bench. There are still guidelines that have to be followed. Children still need to be wearing masks, and the windows in the buses have to be open 2 inches. So that will allow for airflow. So we are currently in the process of looking at our wait lists and scheduling as many as we can to come onto our buses, hopefully right after the February break. We also know that the majority of our bus drivers do fall into the phase 2, step 2 category, which means they will be up for vaccination this week. So it is our hope that they can be prioritized and get their vaccines right away. And as soon as that happens, at least Linda and her husband will be returning to us, and that will give us a huge help. So between these 2 great pieces of news, I think we're in good shape, and we'll be working with each of the schools to make sure that all the students who are in need of transportation get it. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Jen, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and congratulate all of our students that received principal's list this evening. They did a tremendous job, and I wanted to recognize them publicly. Principal Manny Vassell did an incredible job recognizing them virtually amongst the group of students who achieved that status, but I think it's important for the public to hear and recognize we had a great group of high school students that received all A's for second quarter. So congratulations. And thank you, Mandy.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Before I go on to Amanda for her report, I just sort of piggybacking from Zona's comments and report from the collaborative breakfast. When we broke out into our subgroups, we got to sort of talk about what are our top 3 concerns for this school year. And I think we all, we all were sort of in agreement that obviously the vaccine, getting our school kids back into school, obviously is a priority for us, but keeping our students and teachers safe. I think other than the not agreeing about our vaccine numbers coming out to the islands, I think everything else we were pretty much in agreement with. But what I will say is we had 2 students that were who joined us, and they were fabulous. They were from Barnstable High School, and they joined us for the racial equity presentation that followed after the legislative breakfast session. And I would love to talk to Beth a little bit more about, and Mandy, about implementing, and nobody shoot me here for this word survey, but the students have a survey that is a short survey that is given out to them a couple of times during the year. And it's about their feeling about being respected in their space and being heard as a student and feeling that they feel comfortable in their schools. And it's something that we've talked about before. And I know I have tried to bring up in the past and we haven't done it. I haven't brought it up in over a year, but this was something that I'd hope that we would do system-wide is to put all of the students' names somewhere on a wall during a PD day and recognize if you know 1, 2, or 3 things about each student, because the purpose is that you look back and you look at the students who don't have any name or a mark next to their name. And they're the students that we really need to make sure that we take time to focus on and get to know and build relationships. But this is really sort of a step before that, which is asking the students to self-identify. It is a confidential survey, but I loved it. They shared, 4 or 5 of the questions that they put out there. And these students really appreciated being asked how they felt, and also if they felt safe, and whether they felt like they belonged in their schools. So I would like to follow up with Mandy and Beth, and if we think it's appropriate to move that into middle school, I'd like to also have a conversation with Mike about that. But I've got 4 pages of notes, so obviously it was a good meeting. So that's it from me. Amanda, would you like to go into your report, please?
Sure, thank you. My first report is just that the scholarship list came out yesterday for seniors. So tomorrow there's going to be a meeting with the guidance department to kind of talk more about that process tomorrow during advisory. And then in Veritas, we're working on producing our 5th edition from this year. Our last edition was actually printed on paper, the first copy of the year. But if you don't have a chance to look at that, all of the articles are on the website, which is veritasnantucket.com. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to the girls hockey team. They won their first game on Monday against Martha's Vineyard.
That's wonderful. Yes, I saw that. That's awesome. Congrats to them. Thank you, Amanda. Any comments for Amanda? Just raise your hands, please. Steve, Tim, Jen? No? Okay.
Well, the women's hockey team, for their first win, certainly picked a good one to beat.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Mandy. Is there some place where these honorable students' names are posted or something that we can get at?
We will be, through the chair, we will be posting that or sending that to the newspaper.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I will mention too, for the Nantucket Education Trust, we met actually today, and I'm very pleased to say that Nantucket Education Trust is going strong, and it's been a long ride, and my dear friend Robin Harvey was with me for many years of working to get NET into a place where we could really be a resource for our schools. And I'm really happy to say that we are finally in that position where we can begin to focus on providing support for our school students and our teachers where there would not necessarily be budgets ability to support programs and individuals. And one of the things that Tracy Roberts has really taken the lead on with our high school counseling staff has been we did an initiative looking to raise some money a couple of years ago where we wanted to start a sophomore program where we took students across the Sound and visited various colleges. And it was really for all students to apply, but we wanted particularly to open up that conversation to families that wouldn't necessarily be having that conversation at the dinner table. And we've had 2 successful years of getting students engaged in the program. And we've actually, this year, Tracy and the team have been looking at how they will go about doing this remote, because obviously we're not going to have the access that we've had in past years. But I'm really excited with the plans that they have. And so closer to that time, or maybe after the fact, we'll invite Tracy to report out on how it went. But it's really about engaging students in college or having conversations about what if I don't go to college, what are the options, and what about trade schools and vocational schools. And it really took interest in the community, and it's something that we're very proud of. So we'll have more for you on that. But it's good to bring up Nantucket Education Trust every now and then, because we need to do, well, I think we're ready to start really putting the education out there that we are here as a resource for our students and our teachers. And it's a real pleasure to be able to say that finally. So thanks, everybody. You see for the agenda for next meeting, which is March 2nd. Anybody have any comments or questions? Or
Yeah, Madam Chair, are we going to add trying to finish these district school committee goals to that agenda?
Yes. Yep, I have that on my other paper. Yes, we'll add on school committee goals. Anything else from anybody? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen.
Second.
Second. All in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Thank you, Zona.
Aye.
Thank you, Jen.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe.